Hi scrapbook friends, it's Nicole from Nicole's Scrapbooks, and today I'm here with an idea showing you how to use one of the Creative Memories circle punches to create a straight border to use on your scrapbook layouts. So if you're familiar with our circle punches, you know that you take a 6-inch square and create a circular design, kind of maybe like a doily shape. And this is great for, you can cut out a circle, or you can cut your picture in a circle and mount it in that way. You can cut them in half. I've seen lots of really cute ideas using this. But sometimes you don't just want a circle. Sometimes you want a straight border. And so that's what we're going to do today, is take this circle and turn it into a straight border. So here's a few samples that I did using this technique. These two here are using the paper pack that we are going to be using today, called Simply Beautiful. This one is done with emerald gemstone. I love the emerald gemstone paper pack, but I didn't feel like this was quite as spring-like as I was going for. The Simply Beautiful paper was an incentive paper pack. So it was a for sale paper pack years ago in old CM, but a year or so ago they came out with the Simply Beautiful Refreshed as a promo. Creative Memories loves to do these offers where they, you spend X amount of money and you get a paper pack for free. And I love it when they do it, because who doesn't like free paper? So this is the paper pack that I'm going to use, but you can use any paper that you want. It is a bonus if you can use the front and back of one of the same piece of paper, but you certainly don't need to. So I'm going to use, let's see, I think I'll use this blue and yellow design. You can see I've used a bunch of the papers from that already. So I'm going to use the blue and yellow design to create my border this time. So to start with, you're going to want to cut your paper. You're going to need 2 6-inch squares. You could also do this with solid cardstock, any pattern paper. I'm just lucky that I like both sides of this paper. And so that makes this an easy project to do using one sheet. So this particular paper pack, the Simply Beautiful, I have found a little bit hard to use because of this white edge. And so we're going to have a workaround for that. This works really well. You're also going to then take the other piece of paper or a different paper. If you want to use a separate coordinating paper, that's perfectly fine. You're going to need one piece that is 1.5 inches wide. And then you're going to need a piece of any paper. It can be scrap paper. You're not going to see it, but since I've got this right here, I'm just going to go ahead and cut another piece of this at 1 inch. And this is going to be our backing that just to hold our design together. So the next thing we're going to do, this is extra. The next thing we're going to do is take our 2 6-inch squares and we're going to cut them using the circle punch. So like all of our punches, it comes flat. So I'm going to open it up to release this spring mechanism that's going to allow me to punch. Unlike a lot of our punches, this one can only work in one direction. So it has the back, I always call this a fence to keep your paper straight, but it also has it on this side. And so this corner is kind of where the magic happens. I love that on the side of the punch, they tell you the steps. 6x6 paper, align the edges, punch 4 times, turn over, and then punch 4 times. So that's exactly what we're going to do. We're going to line everything up in this corner right here and go ahead and punch 4 times. So I'm going to punch, I'm going to turn 90 degrees, line up those edges, turn 90 degrees, and turn 90 degrees. And then we're going to flip it over, and that way that gives us this corner again. Now, when you cut the second time, you're going to be left with this little piece in the corner that's going to be excess. I like to just go ahead and tap that out of the way so that it doesn't get caught again in the punch. It probably will punch fine, but for me, it's just nicer to get it out of the way. And actually, what I should have done is punch this on a piece of scratch paper, so that I would have an easy way to get rid of all this confetti. So I'll do that with the next piece. So you're going to punch the first one, and then you're going to punch the second one again. Same thing. Punch on all 4 corners. Then you flip your paper over. Well, that didn't work quite as well as if I would have grabbed a piece of 12 by 12 paper, but it helped a little bit. All right, so here are my two little punched out doilies from the 6-inch dotted leaf circle punch is the name of this tool. All right, so now we're done with that little scrap again. So now we want to take this and we're going to cut it into 8 pieces. So I found with this one, let's see which side is easier to see, maybe the yellow. I found with this one that where I needed to cut is going to be right where the dot is and the point. So if you see the kind of the design, you have a dot, empty, empty dot. So we're going to go ahead and cut all of these along the dot. The first one, you just line up the point and the point right here along the cutting edge of your trimmer. Now you can, if you like, if you're not really exactly sure of where your trimmer is going to cut, use the sight lines, which are these little measuring pieces that live in the housing of the track. So you can line up with those, and we're just going to cut this guy in half. Then you turn it on its side. This is the easiest one to cut because you can just line it up against this bottom edge. Again, lining up this piece in the middle. Cut both of these. And then you take the triangle pieces. This one's a little bit tricky because you do have to make sure you got both pieces straight again, and you don't have a whole lot to hold on to. But put the point on the cutting line and then this same triangle in the dot, and you're going to go ahead and cut all of your pieces just like this, so each of these doilies into 8 pieces. Okay, now through the magic of video editing, I have both of my little doilies cut into 8 pieces for a total of 16 pieces. Now we're not going to use all 16. And with this particular Simply Beautiful paper pack, because of this white edge, I want to kind of pull out the ones that I feel like don't, that the white edge shows on. I don't really, I do a lot of my scrapbooking on white pages, and so I don't really want the white edge. So I'm just going to kind of put those off to the side. I may need some of them, but these are the 4, I think, that have the most of the white. And then you decide, if you're using double-sided paper, you decide which piece you want to have be the colored, kind of the ruffly edge, and which piece you want as your base. You can see on here, I've got a little bit of that white edge at the top and bottom. I don't think it's super noticeable on a border like this. So I think I'm going to do, I think I want the blue to be the ruffly edge, which means I should have probably picked the white, although it's probably the same because the borders are in the same section. So I'm going to start with the blue. And then I'm going to take the 1-inch piece of paper and use this as my base. And I'm going to go ahead and just take my repositionable tape runner, and I'm going to put a whole stripe along each side of this 1-inch piece. And I know if you're like me, it's almost painful to use this much adhesive, but I decided that it's just about the same as putting some on each of the individual triangles. Now, if you have some kind of a mat with a grid, if you have maybe the 0 centering ruler, something like that, you're going to want to be able to line this up so that you can see where the center is of this piece. I don't know if you can see it very well on here, but you're going to want these lines. I think I'm just going to use my grid since I have this. The Creative Memories 13-inch mat works great too for this purpose, but something with straight lines that will show you that has a grid is going to make this first step a lot easier. And then you're going to want to take one of these and you're going to want to position it. So let's see, 11. Oh boy, that's hard math. I'm going to scoot it down to 10 inches and 22 so I know that oh my gosh, I don't even know. That's 12 inches. So I want to be at 6 inches, which is 16. I'm going to take the point of this and align it on one of the lines. And then this little dot in the middle, I'm going to align on the same line so that I know that my piece is straight. Just so that I know that the first one I'm starting with is straight. Now you can position this anywhere you want. There is no rule exactly where this has to be on this strip, except you do not want any of this yellow to show through, or whatever your background color is, through the holes that you've punched. And then once you got your first one down, you just go ahead and line up the point to point, and you're going to go all the way up, alternating direction, positioning these edges as nicely as you can, because this is the part that's going to show. The middle doesn't matter so much. It's the edges, and I really like this section on this punch. I care more about this side where the two little round pieces make this little half circle. So if it's not quite lining up, I care less about having the point line up with the half circle, and I care more about having the half circle line up. So I'm going to line up my two little half circles up here. And on this one, I'm just going to go off the edge. I'll give it a little bit more adhesive just to hold that on. This is a great one for when you do have like the white border on, if you're using this particular paper. I don't think you would want to use this with any kind of a stripe pattern. An all over pattern works really well for this. So just line them all up, making those cute little circles. For whatever reason, it kind of reminds me of the Avengers logo. I'm sure that that's not actually what the Avengers logo looks like. I'm not really as hip on pop culture as probably I like to think I am. But I just kind of see that circular pattern right here, and that's what I think. So, all right. So now I'm going to put this last piece on. And as you see, I went over the edge. So the triangles are longer than 12 inches. Now you could use your trimmer if you're not sure about your cutting skills. I'm just going to wing it. I'm going to just take my scissors. I'm going to line up my blade with this straight piece. And I'm just going to trim this straight across. This one happened to be right in the middle, but it's not always going to. So just line up with the edge. And there is your border background. So we went from this to this. Now, if you look it up close, you will see that you can definitely see where the triangles are. I mean, I guess you could leave this just like this as a border if you didn't want to, if you don't want to keep going. But we're going to do the next step and use the fun butterfly punch. Actually, I'm going to use my regular tape runner on here just because I don't know why. I just like the regular. If you're one of those who uses the repositionable all the time, have at it. It doesn't really matter. Any kind of adhesive right here. And then when I line it up, I'm using kind of this little triangle that is formed from where the little half circle wedges meet. And I'm kind of trying to match that on both sides just so that my strip is centered evenly. All right, so there's my border strip centered down here. Now the next thing we're going to do is do a little trail with the dot pens. I tried it without the trail, and I just didn't like it quite as much without putting this little dot trail. Now some people like to do the dot trail after they put the dragonflies on, but for whatever reason, I felt like I wanted to put the dot trail on first. So I'm just going to grab my black pen. And the Creative Memories pens are a dual tip. So we've got one side that's more of a fine tip, and that's great for journaling. And then one side that's the wider tip, and that's the one I'm going to use. And I'm just going to do a free form little dotted line. You could throw some little spiralies in here if you want. That looks really cute. Does make it a little bit more time consuming. Just do your little dotted line. If you're not confident in your dot drawing, you could draw this line with pencil first. You could trace it with a template, but I really want it to be pretty free form. You know, it's just going to be some dragonflies flying on here. So there's my little dots all the way up on my border using the dual tip pen. And now we're going to add the dragonflies. So I chose to use some shimmer paper. This is from a paper buffet we had a few weeks ago, and I just really like the shimmer paper. This one I used white, and so it's up to you if you prefer the white or the dark. This could go either way. I'm going to go ahead and go with the dark, the black shimmer paper. You could, if you had the purple, any kind of paper. It wouldn't even have to be a shimmer, but I just thought the shimmer would be really fun to make these little dragonflies. And so I'm going to use the new dragonfly punch. Same thing. It opens up like this. And what I found is that if you punch it correctly, you can be left with this strip, which in itself could make actually a really cute little dragonfly border. And so to do that, you're going to want to line the paper up the first time with the edge of your punch. So this spacing doesn't necessarily work for every punch. This one, the dragonfly does not fall through to the bottom. If you notice on the bottom, it doesn't look the same as what the actual punch does because it's got all these little pieces to punch through, and they wouldn't be able to do that. So we're going to punch the first one, and then we're going to line up this edge of the dragonfly wing again right with the side of the punch. So that's the positioning that's going to make us able to get 5 of these across with some really nice even spacing, in case you wanted to use this for, you know, another border or another layout. And again, I should have punched it on some scratch paper so I didn't have all the little confetti, but that's all right. We can handle a little bit of confetti. Now, one of the things that's really fun about this dragonfly punch is that the little body is exactly the right size for one of the mini foam squares. All right, it just fits perfectly right on there. You do have to turn it a little bit at an angle. So you're kind of doing this little triangle shape, but it completely it's completely hidden behind the body of the punch. So I'm going to go ahead and do all of my little dragonflies on a foam square. And you wouldn't have to do this. Of course, you could do them just flush. The repositional adhesive would be great for something like this. You could double layer these. One of the girls at my National Scrapbook Day this weekend where we made this, she did a white one and then she chalked around the edges. It looked really cute. And then you're just going to kind of want to position these evenly, kind of along the little trail that you've done. I don't want to cover up my little dots that I swooped around, and peel off the adhesive and just stick these guys on. I actually, my brain wants to do all of them in the same direction, but that is kind of a little bit boring. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to take one of these guys, and he's going to kind of be doing a loop-de-loop down here. So he's going to be going like this. Because, you know, isn't there always one of those? I think that just adds some interest to the border punch, or to the border, to have somebody, you know, doing his own thing. Now, if you were going to use these on 2 sides of a double page layout, you might want to vary the positioning of these. I like to do 5. I like an odd number. I think that that makes for a more visual interest. And of course, you know, that gave us the 5 across here on the piece of the black shimmer paper. All right, so we've had 3 of the circle punches. This is the current one, the dot leaf punch. I can never remember the name of it. The dot leaf circle punch is the one that we use today. We've had 2 others in the past. The most recent one we had was the floral circle punch. There is a chance that this one is still available. I'm not 100% for sure. And then we have the ornate arches punch. This was an advisor join gift year and a half ago, 2 years ago. And then they also had it, I think, for sale on the clearance at the end of the year. So you may have one of these others. If you don't, it might be too late to get it. But they also work a little bit differently. I like this one, I think, better. This one with the ornate arches, it kind of staggers you in a way that I don't find as visually pleasing as this one that is very kind of centered, or as this one that, you know, it just looks like one continuous border. This one kind of is a little bit snaky. And there's probably, you know, reasons you might want that. Actually, you know, across this way, I don't think it bothers me as much. But you can do it with the other circle punches. Same concept. Start with your circle, cut this into 1/8. So in half, and then again, 8 pie wedges, and then alternate them back and forth. You can't really see. Back and forth here to get, just on a scrap strip, to get the straight line border from a circle punch, the Creative Memories circle punch, dotted leaf, floral circle, and ornate arches. So I hope that you will love this idea and be able to use it with your circle punches to get a little bit more life out of something that seems pretty one task specific, but actually can have a second life as a straight border punch. So if you create a border like this and you'd like to share it, the easiest way to do that is on my Facebook page, Nicole's Scrapbooks. I would love to see that over there. I will be posting this video there. And so if you want to just post in the comments over there, then I'll be able to see your creations turning a circle into a straight line. Thank you so much and happy scrapbooking.